Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Top Practices Marketing Mastermind call. This is a special one, and if you're listening on an audio, to the audio track of this presentation, please know that also inside the Top Practices library is all of the slides and the notes that are being presented today. You can either watch it as a video or track it later, however you want to do that. It is my honor to introduce Dr. Marybeth Crane, who is the founder of the Foot and Ankle Associates of North Texas, affectionately referred to as FAANT. It's, as they say, a fantastic practice, and that's in Grapevine and Keller, Texas. Marybeth is one of the original Top Practices members, joining all the way back in 2007. Marybeth attended the very first Top Practices Summit in Fairfax, Virginia, which had 21 people, of which 5 were Marybeth Crane's office. She was really introduced. Well, actually, I'm going to let her talk about that. But in that time, she's also been one of the most successful Top Practices members, one that has been followed and imitated and really looked up to by literally hundreds of people around the country for what you're going to hear about today. I asked her to be the Top Practices keynote speaker at the summit because first, I must confess, the very first reason is Diane, the CFO and my wife in Top Practices, said, well, the obvious choice for keynote speaker this year is Marybeth Crane. And I said, well, heck, you're right. And so I talked to Marybeth and asked her to do it, and she agreed to. She's entitled her talk The Finish Line. She'll explain why that is and what that means. But it's my pleasure. Marybeth, thank you for reproducing your keynote speech, which was one of the finest talks we've ever had at the summit. And I just want to say thanks for doing this for everybody in Top Practices and beyond. I really do appreciate that.
Well, it's my pleasure. It really was a magical moment at the summit, and it was very touching that you asked me to be the keynote speaker. So we may not be able to completely recreate it, but hopefully we'll get the gist of it.
Well, we certainly will get the information, which is also one of the primary reasons for this reproduction, because not only do you tell your story, but you share some really, really useful tips and help. So, Marybeth, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, everyone, we're talking about the finish line, and the reason that we're talking about the finish line is because I am blessed enough to be in the twilight of my career and looking at the finish line. I truly believe that a successful career in podiatry is not a sprint. It's not a marathon, it's actually an ultramarathon. And wow, it's a long journey, but it's really all about the journey. So looking back, it was a crazy AAPPM weekend in Pittsburgh in 2007 when Lori Cerami, who's my practice administrator, met Rem and told him that he was going to be her new best friend. Lori then went on to introduce the entire FAANT family to Rem over the next few months. And wow, it is really hard to believe that that was more than a decade ago. I truly believe that that day in Pittsburgh literally changed my life and the course of my practice. I know that sounds overly dramatic, but next to my father and Dr. Bruce Werber, who is my podiatry mentor, Rem Jackson has been one of the most influential people in my life in the last decade. He's my business coach, my voice of reason, my creative collaborator, and I am honored to call him my friend. He has encouraged me to navigate many changes in my life, both personally and professionally, and has helped me build a very successful practice while finding true balance and happiness, and also financially success. So now that I'm reaching the twilight of my podiatry career, I look back and I realize that Rem has been and will be the catalyst for positive change in the podiatry community, and is a great wingman for many of us. So thank you, Rem. You truly are a blessing in my life, and I'll be forever grateful for your friendship.
Well, thank you, Mary.
Let me tell you a story. Number one, first, who am I? Rem gave you a little bit of idea, but if you don't already know me, I am the founding partner and managing partner of Foot and Ankle Associates of North Texas in Grapevine and Keller, Texas. It's a multi-million-dollar private podiatry practice that started with just me and my mother answering the phone. in 1997. Now we're 6 doctors, 2 locations, and 40 employees. And what a ride it has been. Now a little bit more about me. As you see all these running pictures already, I am a longtime competitive distance runner and triathlete. It turns out that I've been, on July 4th, 2019, it was 40 years of competitive running. And July 1st was 25 years of podiatry. So it's really been an ultramarathon. I'd like to share with you how I've faced seemingly endless series of challenges that threaten to break my spirit and bankrupt my practice, literally and figuratively. And it's been a roller coaster of highs and lows. And now I get to prepare for my exit from private practice on my own terms. The finish line is really in sight. One of my favorite quotes from the CEO of Amazon, who's Jeff Bezos, is that time in 10 years makes an overnight success. And I wholeheartedly agree. Everybody looks at FAANT and says, wow, you know, that's a really nice, successful practice. But it took over 20 years for FAANT to evolve into what it is today. And what you really see is just the virtual tip of the iceberg. You see the growth, you see the success, but you don't see what was underneath it. So one afternoon, I was just lying in a relaxation room in Cabo with my amazing husband and wondering to myself, how the heck did I get here? Because the last 25 years has been a blur. How did I become financially secure, happy, successful, and a mostly balanced, although some people will not agree with that, 50-year-old? Rem has asked me to give you a glimpse of it, so you may understand that the race to become successful in life and in medical practices is a series of ups and downs. You just have to keep going forward, and you will get to the finish line. Now, I alluded to you before that you only see the tip of the iceberg. You see the part above the waterline. What you don't see is the blood, sweat, and tears, long nights, missed school events, and sheer exhaustion that it took to raise the iceberg of success. Climbing virtual mountains, sometimes leaping deep crevasses, and always feeling like you're about to hit a brick wall. Never giving up and having a lot of grit and perseverance, as well as creativity and a rousing sense of humor, is really helpful to be a necessary tool to succeed. Sheer stubbornness also helps. That's the Yankee mentality. So I think I'd be a little remiss without giving you just a tiny bit of background. I won't tell you my whole life story, but I'll give you just a little background. A long, long time ago, in a place far, far away, and if you're watching the slides, you're probably cracking up at the pictures right now. You've got to love the 80s hair and the glasses. Well, I grew up in a small rural town in Rhode Island. We had no idea that we were poor until we hit junior high. They shipped us off to a regional high school that was 7 through 12, and that's when all the fun began. Prior to that, everybody else around us was poor, so we really had no idea that anything was different. And I'm not talking about abject poverty. I'm talking about your typical lower working middle class, your blue-collar tribe. We had clothes to wear, foods to eat, lots of church family around us. Think that small town where no one locks their doors, and you could wake up with your neighbors in your kitchen fixing themselves a cup of coffee. And don't think that it didn't happen. It did. Just a very safe, secure middle-class background. Then you get to high school, and wow, there's kids with shirts that cost as much as your entire wardrobe, and you realize that the world is bigger than your little small town. Now, I was lucky. My mom was a librarian, and I was fairly smart and fast. National Merit semifinalist with dreams of getting as far away from my small town as possible. I had no idea what was out in that big, great world, but I felt trapped in my small town bubble. Scholarships offers came in for running and for academics. I applied to Caltech, and my parents said no, so off to Providence I went. Running was my life, and school was secondary, so my undergraduate degree ended up being in exercise science, which is running cross country. I had thoughts of being an athletic trainer, but a very smart and little orthopedic surgeon told me, baby, girls like you don't become athletic trainers. He said, go to medical school. Cute girls don't get jobs as trainers, and he was right. Well, I really explored physical therapy, allopathic medical school, and podiatry. I really think God brought Dr. Bruce Werber into my life. He actually drove me to Boston to an interview at Barry University, and I was miraculously given a full tuition scholarship. Podiatry it was. That was 1989, and I have no regrets. Yes, the 90s hair is even worse than the 80s hair. Fast forward to 1996. I just finished my residency back at Brown with my mom bringing me groceries and doing my laundry. Home is not such a bad thing, but I was in love with a man I met in Florida while in school, so off I went. But only after taking over Dr. Werber's practice for 3 months while he took a little sabbatical. That was payback for getting me to school, I think. Yes, I started at his office on July 1st, 1996, and he left on July 2nd. Went on a road less traveled tour, I think. Talk about learning with your hair on fire and by the seat of your pants. He had an amazing staff, and I was smart enough to take direction. He came back in September, and I moved to Florida without a job. It did take me about 8 seconds to find one, and I spent a year as an associate, got married, and almost immediately pregnant with my daughter, Alex. Funny thing is that I was talking partnership with the guys in Florida, but as soon as I got pregnant, they felt perhaps I should wait and see if I wanted to work full-time after becoming a mom. Really? After all that time? So guess what? Off to Texas we went. We decided that in order for me to practice full-time, my husband to work full-time as well, we needed grandparents. And my husband's parents lived in South Lake, population 14,000, and no podiatrist there. But all the hospitals and things were in Grapevine, and so that's where we ended up. And in Grapevine, in 1997, there were 39,000 people and 1 podiatrist. Just to give you an update, in 2018, there's 53,000 people, 9 podiatrists, and 3 foot and ankle surgeons. I was really happy that I got there second. So we moved to South Lake, Texas, which is a growing town. And, I negotiated to work in one of the guys' practices, that one guy's practice, on straight percentage, kind of eat what you kill, until after Alex was born. I figured if I was going to take a risk at something, I was going to take a risk on myself. Well, you have to fast forward to a few months after Alex was born, and I was making more than my host podiatrist because I was a little more efficient. I would see about 3 patients, and the time he saw 1, he talked really slow. So we had recently opened an office in Grapevine together, and I basically took the entire place down to the paper clips for the money that he owed me. Yes, a quick startup with no hurt feelings on either side. I had just outgrown his laid-back country style with my Yankee talk-too-fast efficiencies. So I had 6 treatment rooms and only 2 rooms of equipment. I love this quote from Emerson that what you are afraid to do is a clear indication of what you need to do. And that was start my own practice. Yep, fast forward to the 1997 hair. It gets even better. And, my mother was answering the phone. We scheduled all the patients between 10 and noon, so it looked like I was busy. And Mom and I played canasta. We actually had a website that was one page, mcpodiatry.com. That was for Mid-Cities and Marybeth Crane. I figured that worked. And I rewrote the podiatry privileges at the 2 local hospitals with little or no resistance, since it was really just me with advanced training. And the years flew by. So Alex was born. Then Mid-Cities Podiatry was born. And then enter Adriana Carpati. Carpati was a few years behind me in school and had worked for 2 different practices with a bad taste in her mouth. I couldn't afford an associate, but I had enough patients at this point for 2 docs, so I made her the same deal. Straight percentage, eat what you kill. She jumped in and has been by my side ever since. And I could tell a lot of stories about our obstacles, but I figured just a few will give you an idea of the hurdles that we encountered. Yep, my daughter, Caitlin, that's my mini-me, was born not long after Carpati joined me. She then had a baby too, and then twins with several months of bed rest before they were born. We also, within 2 weeks of each other, I broke my right hand. My daughter, Alex, slammed it in the car door, and she broke her left wrist. Yes, I'm right-handed, and she's left-handed. Talk about an adventure. We slowly acquired staff, and eventually my mom retired. She is really afraid of computers, so once we decided to add those to the practice, that was a problem. We added an associate, and Lori Cerami joined us. She entered our life just in the nick of time, I always tell her. We were actually out running. We had been introduced by the physical therapist, who was her boss, that I was doing physical therapy with for my hand. And one weekend I'm like, why don't you come work for me and quit your job? And she's like, how about I work with you, not for you? And the rest was history. Then we decided to do something completely crazy, which was, merge with another practice. And wow, that was probably a bad idea. But we merged with another young practitioner who was about 20 miles north of us, and we became FAANT. FAANT was born. And thank the Lord, I either had enough business acumen or the right advisors to put a sunset clause into that relationship, because 2 years later, we parted ways because we didn't see the world through the same filter. No animosity, just not compatible. I kept my toys and he kept his. And what we had, we separated. Dr. Giacalone had come along with us, and we had built 2421 Ira E. Woods, which was a 10,000 square foot building in 2004. And boy, that was a bigger building than I ever thought I would outgrow. And we did in about 3 years. So we unmerged with Dr. Dauphiné, and then, unfortunately, a small roller coaster happened. This is where I take deep cleansing breaths. I lost my son in 2005 because I was traveling quite a bit lecturing for extra money since my husband's business was not doing well. I was in Nashville giving a practice management lecture, 24 weeks pregnant, when I started feeling bad. The next morning, he was gone. There was just no heartbeat. He was stillborn, just not big enough to survive. And I thought that this was the worst thing that could ever happen. But I was wrong. A few years later, life taught me that. After 2 weeks in bed, I heard my oldest daughter ask her father if I was ever going to stop crying. And I got up the next day and went back to work. 4 months later, after I'd been told that I could never get pregnant again, I was pregnant with my daughter, Sasha. She was such a blessing. My attitude was totally different, and unfortunately, my marriage didn't survive it. I felt under immense pressure to keep up the income stream, yet wanted to stay home with this amazing blessing that I was given. So after 4 months, Sasha was big enough, and I went back to work. But Jim and I parted ways when she was 2 years old. Divorce is never easy. There's never one guilty party, and I know a lot of us have been through it. Both have some responsibility in the demise of a marriage and a family. I thought we had amicably worked it out and found a win-win for both of us, but unfortunately, my ex could not keep up his end of the bargain financially. So, oh no. Yeah. Have you ever gotten a demand letter from a bank? Yeah, I got a certified letter from Bank of America demanding $1.1 million in 30 days. I was like, what? And no, I don't have even close to that money hanging around. But thankfully, I'm frugal, and one of the things I did right after the divorce was pay off my house so that the girls would always have a place to live no matter what happened. That must have been a God moment as well, because the only thing that saved me from bankruptcy was playing let's make a deal with the bank and mortgaging my house again. I didn't have to leverage FAANT or borrow money from my partners. And many court dates later, I found out that a good safety tip that should be emphasized by family lawyers is that financial institutions do not have to follow your court-ordered decrees if you've signed a personal guarantee years ago with your spouse. Really? Yeah, it's another one of those eye-opening things. Most of my friends will tell stories about the fact that I ended up owning a soccer center, which was a money pit, and I actually finally sold it this summer after 3 tries. I really thought that that nightmare was never going to end, but it did. Now, FAANT continued to prosper, and my financial crisis kind of settled down to being comfortable and cautious. My lawyer is an amazing saint, and I'm happy to say he's finally off the payroll. So time continued to go on, and my physical therapy partner since 2004, David Bloom, was diagnosed and then passed away from melanoma in 2012. This is just another death that hit the practice hard. His wife and partners were able to keep his practice alive, but his absence is still felt in the office. You see, if you'd ever visited our Ira E. Woods office, you would have heard David Bloom laughing because he was a constant sense of positive energy in the practice, and we still feel it. And then we had added and subtracted associates along the way for various reasons, and then we built another practice and opened 816 Keller Parkway about 15 miles away. The truth was that we had actually outgrown 2421 Ira E. Woods, and we had outgrown the Grapevine parking lot. People were complaining that when they came in for a visit, sometimes they were late because they had to wait for somebody to leave, or they'd parked across the street at the orthopedist and walked. So we looked at our demographics and said, well, you know, a lot of our people are coming from the Keller and Alliance area. FedEx had built Alliance Airport, was a freight-only airport, and Amazon joined along the way. So that area of the city was growing significantly. And so we opened Keller Parkway, and at this point, we were 6 doctors in 2 offices. And then Lori and I decided one of us needed to get an MBA. We had to run the empire somehow, and at this point, we weren't mom and pop anymore. We had to learn how to be a corporate entity. But honestly, you could not pay me enough money to go back to school. So we sent Lori to UT Dallas on an executive weekend program, and she got her MBA. And then Dr. Aria joined us. She was actually a blessing that came through the residency crisis. She didn't match, so she spent a year with us as a pseudo-medical assistant, kind of extra podiatrist. And then she went back and got a residency and then immediately joined us. And she was quite a blessing today. I have to thank Hal Ornstein for her. And then Dr. Giacalone decided that it was time to retire. We all chipped in and worked a little bit more and added another associate. But the practice really didn't miss a beat. And it proved to us that pretty much anybody could be replaced if we had our protocols in place, or at least we thought. And then I remarried in a magical ceremony in Kauai, and all was good in the world of FAANT. But nothing could have prepared us, and nothing on this roller coaster of life prepared any of us for June 20th of 2016. So just to recap, we had 2 divorces, 2 lawsuits, and no, none of them were malpractice, 1 practice merger, then a practice divorce, 2 deaths, and associates coming and going. We lived through quite a lot during those years, but nothing prepared us for what came next. The unthinkable happened. On July 20th, 2016, that morning, Lori Cerami's daughter, Elise, was found unresponsive at the bottom of the pool at swim practice. She did not survive. I was in the ICU with Lori and her husband when she passed, and I cannot explain in words what this did to me to personally lose Elise. I was there the day she was born, and I was there the day she died. But I also lost my best friend and administrator on the same day. Lori will never be the same. The death of a child changes you. When my son was stillborn, I lost the idea of who he was and who he would become. Lori lost a vibrant, amazingly intelligent teenager who had an incredible future ahead of her. She lost her mini-me. It would be like me losing Caitlin. And look at that smile. She was amazing, an amazing girl. And FAANT was changed forever. FAANT went into a circle the wagons mode. The staff and the doctors were amazing in chipping in and splitting up Lori and my work, because grief is insidious. There is no timeline. It's shocking. It just comes in waves. There's no timeline for grief. I can tell you that some days it's like she died yesterday, and sometimes it feels like it's been a lifetime. Lori has done her best to keep her head above water for her son and her husband and for FAANT, because we built this together. And I wish I could tell you that there was a happy ending for Lori. She will never be the same after the loss of her daughter in such a tragic way. But she gets up every day and tries to get past her grief and be an advocate to the world for water safety. She started an amazing nonprofit to try to educate people that drowning, no one is drown-proof. The coach was found criminally negligent in the death of her daughter, And she does have her amazing charity, Swim for Relief, that is all about lifeguard education and spreading the message that no one is drown-proof. She also has an amazing passion for the Foundation's message and tries to keep her work at FAANT on her desk done. As you can tell, we all changed. We're trying to get past the grief and make a difference in the world. Well, what did I learn? I learned that burnout was real. I learned I couldn't fix it and that I was making myself sick trying to. In November of 2017, the S fell off my chest. I went to the doctor and I said, I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel like my check engine light is on and I've been driving going, it'll be fine. I couldn't sleep a full night. I was gaining weight. I had frequent heart palpitations to the point where the flutter made me actually almost pass out and feel nauseous. And worst of all, I didn't want to run. You know something's wrong there. And after a thorough physical, labs, and EKGs, we both determined that I was in adrenal fatigue. Stress really does kill. Grief could do that too. And I had the perfect storm from 2016 to 2017. I immediately sat down with my partners and outlined a plan to get my health back. I went on a reduced schedule, stopped taking call, completely changed my diet to a modified kind of pseudo-vegetarian paleo, and started to take much better care of my health. I also went to grief therapy because I realized that I had never dealt with Elise's death because I was just trying to be strong for Lori and hold FAANT together. But at this point, I had to save myself. I also realized that I am the most blessed woman in the world. I have an amazing husband, 5 successful girls, 3 are mine and 2 are his, and we are financially secure enough that I can retire tomorrow. I choose to stay to build the FAANT for tomorrow that will be my legacy. I have a 2-year exit plan, and my partners are on board. I had realized FAANT had outgrown me. I had come to the conclusion in 2014 that we needed to be more corporate when Lori went back for her MBA. But honestly, I had figured out that I had never really embraced our structure of leadership because it changed from an autocracy that was my name's first on the board to more of a parliamentarian democracy with a board of partners. And I really had to be honest, I hadn't embraced it. I do consider myself the lucky one. Lori has to get up every morning without Elise. And I'm focusing on my family, a future of consulting, writing, and lecturing on my timetable. My ultramarathon in private practice, I feel, is a great example of an age-old truth from the Bible. This is Ecclesiastes 9:11. I have seen something else under the sun. The race is not to the swift, or the battle to the strong. Nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favor to the learned, but time and chance happens to them all. I also think it's ironic that in my high school yearbook, and yes, we're back to the 1980 here, in 1986, I wrote, "The race is not always to the swift, but to those who keep on running." This was a modification of this same Ecclesiastes 9:11, seen from the eyes of a 17-year-old girl. I believe that at 17 years old, if I just kept moving forward, I would eventually win that race of life. In my heart, I feel like I've fulfilled the wildest dreams of that 17-year-old small-town girl, and the next chapter will be just as fulfilling. So, what can you learn from this? What have I learned from 40 years of competitive running and 25 years of private practice? The course of life is a crazy, winding, and often uphill road. You could try to plan for absolutely everything, but you never know what is around the next corner. Patience is an exercise in self-control, determination, and sheer grit that shows you can handle anything that life throws at you. I will tell you that when you're on the road in Quebec finishing your second Ironman, and you're talking to a 60-year-old plumber from Montreal and they tell you you've got 1 hour to make the finish line or you're not going to make that you're not going to hear those words, you're an Ironman. You just never give up. You never give in. And when you reach that finish line, you realize you just had to keep moving forward and you became an Ironman. And you learned that day you can do practically anything. So now that you've heard my story, let me give you just a little bit of advice that you can use when you're planning your race. And I would title this point, 25 things I've learned in 25 years of private practice. And these are in absolutely no order of importance. So, number 1, nothing is ever as good as it seems, but nothing is actually as bad as it seems either. Life is a roller coaster. You just got to keep moving forward and not focus on the bad stuff. You are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. Choose wisely. My mastermind group with Rem and Top Practices has talked me off the ledge more times than I can even imagine. And I have to thank all of those members over the years who have definitely elevated my game to a new level. Don't try to do it alone. The power of the mastermind is real. Make friends and mastermind with like-minded people. And like-minded is truth. This is where I go, #truth. Amazing things happen when you distance yourself from negativity. Don't let that negative suck. Realize that the power of positivity is so amazing. Goals are important, and revisit them regularly. It will absolutely amaze you if you look at your goals from 10 years ago and you look at them now. What is important in your life? You have to do a goal-setting exercise for all the phases of your life at least yearly because things change, and they change rapidly. What's important changes too. Do everything with the end in mind. It's really hard to reach a finish line if you don't know what it looks like. And remember, sometimes what it looks like changes, and that's just life. I never could have imagined what FAANT looks like now in 2019, back in 1996. It surpasses anything I could have even drawn. But along the way, my goals changed. Don't listen to your haters. And believe me, there will always be haters. Surround yourself again with those positive people and people who will support you when it's raining, not just when it's sunny outside. You know, I jokingly say all the time, hey, it's just another day in paradise, living the dream. Because if your days are full of sunshine, you're going to live in a desert. It's got to be a little bit of rain grows you. And yes, this is another shameless plug for that mastermind thing again. Don't listen to the haters. Choose to have a great day. My kids will tell you this is probably the mantra that I say daily to them. Negative energy sucks the life out of the whole building. You have to choose to be an energy source and not an energy suck. And some days that's hard. But if you are having a bad day, guess what? The 40 other people in your practice are having a bad day too. You need to choose to have a great day every single day. And you'd be amazed. If you wake up and you start saying, hey, I get to go to the office today. I get to see these wonderful people who pay me, and I get to make money. It's awesome. You'd be amazed on how your attitude changes if you just keep telling yourself that. This is another big one. Make a decision and own your decisions. You can always change things up if it's not working. There's nothing worse than paralysis by analysis. You could spend 6 months deciding how things are going to be done, and guess what? That opportunity is already gone. Done is better than none. I can't tell you that I have rewritten my website how many times, but Rem will tell you that I wrote my entire website, the first website, on a Thanksgiving vacation using a laptop next to my pool and threw it up there. And it looks nothing like it looks today, but it was up there, and it was a website, and it was done. And change is inevitable. I think I've already said this 4 or 5 times. You make your opportunities by being an early adopter of changes. Try to always be that the innovator. Embrace change, because it's one of the things that will always happen. It's amazing to me that people are afraid of change more than they're afraid of public speaking. But wow, we get up there and do it anyway, right? Change is inevitable. Try always to be that innovator. Stay up to date. You don't want to be the last one to a party and find out that all the wine is gone. That would be horrible, especially if Rem's with you, because he already drank it. And listen to your staff. Really listen. Don't just listen for your time to talk. Be a true listener. Sadly, most people don't listen with an intent to understand. They listen with just an intent to reply. Listen to your patients. They'll tell you what's wrong with them. Listen to your staff. They'll tell you how to fix things. Listen to your partners. They may tell you 16 ways that you've already tried. Listen to your mastermind, because they'll get you to step 10 a lot faster. Actually listen. And yeah, that's because communication really is the key to all relationships. And it's key to relationships with your staff, your partners, your patients, your children, and anybody who has been through a divorce will tell you communication with your spouse is key. Because, wow, if I had communicated a lot better, I would have told my husband how unhappy I was in trying to do everything all the time. And I would have realized that the S had to fall off my chest for me to be happy and for us to be happy. But I didn't, because I was a poor communicator. And communication is the key. Constantly ask yourself, how can we do this better? And then, can we do it cheaper? Because there's lots of different ways to do this. And one of the secrets to all of our success is that it's not just how much revenue you bring in, that's your gross, but it's how much money you spend. And it's amazing how you can find ways to save money in your practice just by looking at, where is Susie buying that gauze? Because gauze is gauze, whether you buy it from Medline or you buy it from More Medical or you buy it from Henry Schein. Gauze is gauze. And it's amazing how if you actually go through quarterly and look at where you buy some of these things, you can use a GPO like we do, or you can actually have someone going through and looking at them and compare and contrast. You can find ways not only to do it better in many cases, but cheaper. Another good thing is, don't ever believe your press. Don't ever believe your own press, because you know what? If I read my own press, I am amazing. And you know what? I am amazing, but I'm not that awesome. And you really can be better every day. Every single one of us can be better every day. If you start believing your own press, then you stop listening, you stop communicating, and you stop growing. And then you're dead. Because you have to learn from your failures. Thomas Edison said, I have never failed. I just found 10,000 ways it didn't work. Well, guess what? If Thomas Edison can fall down 10,000 times, he got up one more, 10,001, and we have light bulbs. Because it's really not how many times you fell. It's not even how gracefully you fell, because sometimes the fall is hard. It's how you get up. Spend your energy building relationship marketing. This should have been probably number one, because it's all those flashy ads and press releases and that beautiful website, those all cost money, but making friends costs nothing. I usually tell a story about Dr. Steve Buch. And Dr. Buch and I have been friends for over 15 years. Might be going on 20 now. But I met Dr. Buch in the HEB hospital cafeteria. One of the other docs said, hey, there's this new internal medicine doc, and I think he's a runner. You should meet him. Hey, Steve, come on over, meet Marybeth. And the rest is history. We've run at least 10 marathons together. I ran my PR in the marathon talking about nothing but hospital politics for 14 miles with him. And it's funny, there is a podiatrist right next door to his practice, which is 13 miles away from my Grapevine practice, but yet he is my number one referrer and has been my number one referrer for more than 15 years. So why does he send all his patients across town? Because he's my friend. And he tells them, she will take amazing care of you. Relationship marketing gives you a stronger tie, and it binds the community together. And it's amazing how just a few of these raving fans that are internists will keep your practice busy. And it's so much cheaper than those other investments in ads. Not that those are not important, but that takes us to money. And one thing I've definitely learned along the last 25 years is be cautious with money. And I'm not saying you have to be a skinflint, because you do have to spend money to make money. But never spend money you don't have. And always have a backup plan. Because if I hadn't had a backup plan, I would have had to bankrupt FAANT. Always have 60 days worth of backup plans, because crazy things happen, like Medicare runs out of money and stops paying people for a month. Or you get this huge audit, and it's a pre-audit, so they decide not to pay you for 3 months. Always have at least 2 months worth of money, even if it's just a line of credit. Always be able to pay your bills. And get out of debt. There is no such thing as good debt. If you don't believe me, go read Dave Ramsey's stuff. Because especially any doctors who have been out for more than 10 years should absolutely not have any student loan debt left. It's ridiculous. Pay your debts. Get out of debt as quickly as you can. That, coupled with not spending money you don't have, it's amazing how you'll do. Oh, and if you don't know how to do it, then read this book. It's a little bit dated, came out in the late 80s, but it is still relevant. Don't spend money you don't have. Don't buy a Mercedes if you can't pay cash. I tell all my associates, live in an apartment and drive your Honda until it blows up, until you pay off your student loans. And once you do, then save. Start saving money. I would like to tell you that I save half of the money that I earn. That's my goal. I don't always get there. But you want to save for your kids' college education, put it in a 529. Save for your retirement, because guess what? You can't retire at 50 or 51 if you don't put money in a brokerage account, because you're not going to be able to retire on just your 401k. And it's amazing how you save it and you leave it and it stays there and it grows. Even all the money we lost in the 2008 financial crisis, where everybody joked that their 401k became a 101k, we made it all back by 2010. And guess what? We didn't actually lose any money because it was a perceived loss, because you never take it out. You save and you save some more and diversify so you really don't lose any money. And buy commercial real estate. Probably another, put a cherry on top, smartest idea you can do. You should own your office building. You're going to pay rent to somebody, so why not pay rent to yourself? It does not make money while you are in it, but believe me, it is a great investment over a 20 or 25-year span. I sold my commercial office buildings this year, and I doubled my money. And you know what? I didn't lose any money along the way because I was paying rent to me. So buy commercial real estate. And read something every day that will motivate or inspire you. Be a lifelong learner. And if you don't like to read, or you just like to listen to things, then download Audible. But read something. And I'm not talking Danielle Steele. Read something that motivates you or inspires you every day. Have that stack of books next to your bed. Because believe me, you can. Just like I said that you shouldn't believe your own press and you can be better every day. Well, guess what? You're awesome, but you could be awesomer. Read. And embrace, you knew this was going to be in here. Embrace that exercise really is the best drug in the world. Find something, anything that gets your blood pumping every morning, and then do it regularly. You will thank me. I put out a video about a year ago that said how to have a great day every day. And it says, get up and exercise. And I don't care whether you walk, you run, you dance. I don't care if you do silly yoga in the middle of your living room, but do something every day, because exercise is the best drug in the world. It will help with your positivity. It will help you keep your weight down. It will help you be more healthy. All right, enough preaching on that. And take time for you and take time for your family every day, because no one ever dies wishing they worked more. And one of the things I have truly learned is that once your kids get older, you can't get that time back. They have grown up. They have flown the nest. You can't get the time back spending time with your elderly parents when they've passed. You will enjoy that time. You have to take it, because no one ever said they wanted to work more. But strive to find balance, because you do have to balance your family, your health, your spirituality, and your business, and your finances, because those are all important. Every time I look at a task, I think to myself, where does this fall on my balance? And I find myself saying no a lot. That is a word that in the first 15 years, I probably didn't say a lot. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say that something else on your priorities is important. It's a difficult exercise to find balance, but it is way worth it, because I'll tell you, peace of mind is priceless. And pay it forward. So we've gotten out of debt, and now we've paid it forward. Make your associate doctors better than you are. So when it's time to leave, when you get to the finish line, you know that those patients who have provided you with this amazing life that you have are in good hands. I set up a scholarship program at Barry University of the name of Dr. Bruce Werber, because it's important to give back to this amazing profession that we have as well, because your lifestyle has been supported by it. I remember back when I first started, everyone told me that we were all going to starve to death and that we would never be able to be in private practice. Well, you know what? I think we've done pretty well. And yet I hear the same negativity today. So don't listen to all those people and realize that this is an amazing profession. Just follow the rules. Follow those positive rules of life, and you can get there. And realize that when it's time to reach the finish line, all you have to do is define your next chapter. And this is the most beautiful place on earth. It's Kauai. And that was a rainbow coming off of a mountain the day that I married my husband. And the finish line is here. I'm just setting up for the next chapter. So hopefully all of you have enjoyed this little dissertation and will learn from what I've learned. And I hope these tips help. Thank you. And thank you, Rem.
Well, thank you, Marybeth. Thank you so much for taking the time. It's interesting. Before we started the recording so we could really do this, we both had talked about the fact that when Marybeth delivered the keynote speech, it really was a special moment, and obviously there's a lot of emotion that's part of all of this. But the question was, could we really recapture that in a presentation like this? And I just want to tell you, Marybeth, you absolutely did. This was tremendous. It's inspirational. Everybody thinks that, obviously things are good for you. You don't have the kind of problems that we have. You're in Grapevine, Texas, which is this big, healthy, beautiful place, and on, when in point of fact, some of the things that have happened to you would have broken other people. And so, you said it, it's never as good as you think it is for us. It's never as bad as you think it is for you. I try to point that out to everybody all the time. By the way, one note, I only have one note from the whole talk, and that is, if you happen to be one of the folks that's just listening to the audio of this and don't have the visual part, when she said, read this book, it was The Millionaire Next Door. I just want you to know that that's the book that she referenced. So, Marybeth,
and it really
I want to say...
is relevant.
Yeah, I know. And Marybeth, I want to say thank you once again. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for doing this. And thanks for just sharing this story, because it's everybody's story. And really thank you for your 25 points, because those, and it's great. You gave some good executable information there, but the other thing that you did was you really confirmed the point that I always make, which is everything is mindset. Marketing is a formula. If you just do it and you just don't stop doing it in a slight edge fashion, it will happen. But it all comes down to your mindset and how you approach it. So, my friend, my mastermind member, I want to say thank you so much. And we will all see you on the road, and we will be talking again. So thank you, Marybeth.
Absolutely. Let me leave one last quote, because I think it really kind of puts this all together of what you were just talking about. There is a quote from William James, who was a Harvard professor, that I always love when we're talking about mindset. The greatest discovery in our generation is that human beings, by changing the inner attitudes of their mind, can change the outer aspects of their lives. Remember that every day. And thank you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. All right, everybody. Now, go get them. Bye-bye.